Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are actually here today to debate the role of CISOs and security leadership in the changing threat scenario. The debate today is all about the new roles and responsibilities of the security decision makers. What are the challenges that they face? How do they keep pace with this rapidly changing technology and security landscape? To discuss this, we have with us 4 experts who are responsible in one way or another for steering their respective companies through the crucial digital transformation journey. Let's welcome Mr. Mohamed Kamel, Customer Success Manager, Seclore. Hi.
Hi.
Mr. Diab, Senior Sales Director, StarLink. Hello.
Hi.
Mr. Ranjan, Sinha, Managing Director, Protiviti. Hello. And Mr. Nicolai, CTO at Help AG. Hello. Welcome, panelists. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Let's begin with, by looking at some of the challenges that IT leaders or those in the security decision-making hot seat face in today's rapidly changing security threat scenario. Let's begin with Seclore.
Sure.
Mr. Kamel, as Customer Success Manager, what, in your experience, is the main challenge that security leaders face in this whole security threat journey?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So basically, it's not very easy to define one main challenge that CISOs or security leaders are facing. I would say the growing of cybersecurity attacks and the crimes is one of the main challenges security leaders and CISOs are facing right now. Given into consideration the new technologies coming into the picture, like the Internet of Things, the IoT, the blockchain, the cloud technology, the hyperclouds, and so on and so forth. All of these are putting a new challenges and more challenges on the CISOs. However, in my opinion, I still believe that human error and lack of awareness of the cybersecurity risks is the main challenge for any CISO nowadays. So I believe, generally speaking, CISOs should work proactively in introducing training and educating their enterprise on how to deal with the cybersecurity risk.
Yeah, lack of awareness is indeed a huge challenge, absolutely. Yeah. That's a wonderful observation. Mr. Diab, what's your take? In your opinion, what are the challenges that security?
Well, let me add to the challenges that addressed by Mohamed.
Right.
Those I consider as external challenge mostly.
That's right.
There's some internal challenges. And
yes.
We as a StarLink, we work very closely to the CISOs in the market. And we feel the pain. We like CISOs. We like that work. And we believe in the role that CISO plays within their organizations. The real challenge internally within any organization is acceptance or understanding from other function within the organization of the role of the CISO and how early CISO should be engaged with the business planning, business objectives. It's very important. There's other more very important aspect, I believe most of the CISOs here will agree with me, is the budget and the reduction of the cost reduction that they may face, especially post-pandemic. When the post-pandemic, there is a lot of hit and a lot of people understand, maybe more of the business people and Absolutely. Business leaders understand the importance of the security. They are under pressure of the budget reduction because there is a lot of effect, financial effect on the organizations. So this is a challenge with the CISO. One final challenge, I believe as well, is the talent gap and really the skill set. And that will make CISOs as well looking into more outsourcing maybe, finding, and there here the channel and the partner's role are playing very important element within the CISO tasks, which is a lot of tasks, and we feel the pain and we feel the challenge.
Absolutely, talent is a huge,
100%.
Challenge indeed. In fact, it's clear that there are serious challenges that IT decision makers face, but with the right kind of leadership, it is also becoming obvious that these challenges can be, overcome. But what do you think, Mr. Sinha? What has this journey been like?
The way I see is, the way the face of the business is such today, where we are growing manifold every, every month, every year. We are switching from now going to cloud, going to IoT and whatnot.
Absolutely.
I think one of the biggest challenge I see which most of the CISO faces with the management is to act as an enabler instead of as an inhibitor, to these growth. Because many times the CISO are being branded as inhibitor to number of this growth, where they can be actually enabler, and that's a big sort of you can say education or a cultural change which might be required from a CISO angle as well. So I think that's something which, if you're able to overcome, I think the budgets, the other constraints, I agree with all of that, and those becomes a lot more easier to manage.
Absolutely. And coming to Mr. Salih, how about you? What do you think is most challenging?
Well, first of all, we all need to remember that CISOs is not just about cybersecurity.
Yes.
It's actually about information security. And I think it's an extremely interesting space. If I look at some of the things that we see in our operations when we work with clients, there's a few things that's kind of conflicting to each other. One of them is that attackers, they are becoming better and better at what they do, more and more persistent, more and more well-funded. And that's something we see across the environments that we are managing and operating. And at the same time, we have CISOs that are being asked to do more with less. And that's really a big conflict between those two things. Finally, I also have to say that with attackers being as professional as they are today, I think sometimes we also have to maybe look back and review if we are actually able to deliver those services internally in our organizations. We talked about skills gap. That's a big issue, that you can't get the right individuals. And I think we are getting towards the space where CISOs will have to start to think about what is appropriate for us to handle in our organization and what should we rely on partners to do so that we can let the professionals defend against the professionals. And that's really what we see right now.
Absolutely. I mean, the challenges are real. Like it's just real. It's being acknowledged. That's great to see. Now, let's come to this very interesting question that's in everyone's minds, foremost when talking about cybersecurity today, especially CISO's new role. It's about, CISOs today wear two hats, basically, the business hat and the technical hat. So, how can they actually make sure that the technical aspect aligns with the business or financial, objectives of an organization? That's a real question that we all ask. Mr. Diab, what would you agree that the role is a tightrope, and what would you say?
I don't agree with the two hats. It's
okay.
one hat.
Okay.
It's one hat. The business, we don't need to forget that CISO is working again to help achieve the organization goal.
Right.
It's like a marketing division.
Yes.
The marketing is not doing the marketing for any organization for the sake of the marketing. It's the sake of the organizational goal. So I believe and I demand, to be honest, for bigger role for the CISO during their business planning.
Right.
Understanding what the business needs, not only the goals, because definitely they are on board and they will know the ideal goal.
Absolutely.
But how to achieve this target, the strategy that any organization put. Let me give you some example. There is some organization, maybe they require to do their business, they require their employees to go outside and present their product remotely in the customers or outside.
Yeah.
Some business needs to have the employees carry a USB or any device outside.
Absolutely.
Some of them require a heavy load on the social media and internet.
Yes.
Without CISO understand this go-to-market strategy. It's a pure business, but it's pure business. This is in the core of the CISO role. He need to know, or she need to know, the core of the business and how we are doing the business, so they can efficiently work to the security, as Nicolai mentioned. It's information security. It's not only cyber security.
Absolutely.
So they need to know exactly how to build the security strategy for the organization. Unless they know the goal and how the organization is planning to achieve that goal, they will not really be able to be accurate and efficient in their role. So definitely they should be engaged in the business planning.
Absolutely. And Mr. Salih, what do you agree? I mean, what do you say about this tightrope?
So I think there's a lot of, again, conflicts, right? That's where most of our industry is working in. If you look at CISO as an example of being relevant to business versus technology, I think again there's a conflict coming up right now and a very interesting challenge around how do we deal with the privacy frameworks that's available today. The UAE announced a data law just a couple of days ago. I think all of us that are in the industry is really looking forward to seeing how that actually is being spelled out and how that's going to impact the business models available. Because as information being what's driving the transformation of organizations, how we protect that information and how we can utilize that information also becomes extremely important. And I think any CISO in the room today, they will be looking into this in the coming months and years on how to achieve that balance of being business relevant but still protecting the information of their customers, right?
Mr. Kamel, would you say that it's a one hat or a two hat?
To be honest with you, until now, I can see there is a conflict in the
Yes.
CISO's role. So, and it depends on the environment or the industry itself. For some industries, the CISO will have to, or he or she will, has to play the, I would say, the technical support or the technical guy role. But I would consider, and this is my own opinion about it, a successful CISO, someone who is really a business oriented, someone who puts his first objective is to go to the business, understand very well what is the overall goal, and also discuss the business security concern. This is very important because what I have seen previously is that some decisions or some security controls decision has been taken without actually discussing anything or any point with the business. So the CISO or the security leader is basically working completely isolated in a separate island away from the other business units. However, in my opinion, nowadays, CISOs should start focusing more in having an open dialogue, open conversation with the business units, different business units. And by that, they can seamlessly ensure full support from the business, especially when it comes to budget approvals or costing and prioritizing the technology that they would like to use or to adopt within the organization.
That's a very valid point. And what's the tightrope like for you, Mr. Sinha?
I'd say a couple of things. So, for example, when Nicolai said, the data regulation has come into play, at the same time, the challenge which you face is the government is also pushing, and the organization is pushing for open data, for example.
Right.
Now, and that's a balancing act.
Right.
It's a question of, on the one hand, there's a purpose behind doing the open data, and on the other hand, you have to kind of continue to kind of regulate, control, and that's where the CISO role is evolving. It has to be a balancing act which has to come into play. It cannot be all about the defense, going forward. And that is kind of one thing. The second is on the budgets, which I've always heard, the quantification of risk. You can say that we have come so far when it comes to the risk assessment and quantification. We have still not achieved, the truly quantified operational risk in cyber yet. And that kind of remains a one issue for you to go back to the management and able to, substantiate, what could be the impact in the dollar value, essentially to, to generate a different sort of, investment in this, space. So that's something, a quantification of cyber risk is something which it has reached a stage where I think it has to become more and more mature, and I think one should move in that direction.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's conflict and there's, so the tightrope is real then. I mean, yeah. So let's now take a step into the future. Considering the challenges that we're all facing today in this scenario, is there anything you think we can do to ensure a secure world tomorrow? Any action of ours today that can ensure cyber resilience tomorrow? Mr. Soling, what do you think?
Well, I mostly work around the cybersecurity sphere, right?
Yeah.
So the technical side of it, right? And one of the things that I always like to, talk to our clients and talk to colleagues in the industry about is that security and cybersecurity, it's really a day zero job in everything that you do. So you have to think about, as part of the way that you architect your applications, the way that you build your infrastructure, the way that you build your resilience, the way that you think about information and data in general, you have to constantly think about that security has to be the underlying pillar that protects those kind of environments. And I think once you get to the that kind of mindset, then at least some of the unfortunate events that you figure out down the road, they will be less frequent.
Absolutely. And what do you think, Mr. Kamel, is that?
I think for a CISO or any security leader, the first priority is to think of or to put a kind of plan B for many scenarios, considering the growing of the cyber attacks and the cyber crimes. So let's assume that tomorrow we couldn't commute to our workplace, or we couldn't access our network or server or service or whatsoever. So basically, what is the disaster recovery plan in place? What is the business continuity plan in place? I believe successful CISOs and security leaders should put the plan B as their first priority.
Absolutely. And Mr. Sinha, what's your take on this?
I mean, I can say a couple of things. So one is, certainly you should, you have to increase, you can say, the stakeholders. So
Yeah,
the
that's
employees of the organization
Yeah.
becomes very important player going forward, because of the threat vectors have really multiplied, given particularly the remote working and the pandemic. So, I mean, it has just opened up a new, arena altogether for all of us. So I think that's kind of one, key thing which needs to be addressed. The second, I believe, we are pretty good in, the offense side of cyber. The defense side where the skills are really short. So I'm just taking the cyber skill and saying, if I go by offense and defense, we need to really distinguish between these two.
Absolutely.
And possibly focus more on having a cyber defense skill and upskilling, because that's a real shortage, trust me. The offense, you will find many skills which is, you have a cyber offense. The defense skill is something which is, there's a serious gap in the market, and that's something going forward people should spend more.
Yeah.
The third is obviously all of us, the situation which we face is anticipate and assess the future risk with the new technology innovation, and the unforeseen risk is what we need to be prepared for. And that's a big problem statement to solve. And that's something which is where the most of the leadership thinking should be kind of directed.
Absolutely. How would you respond to this, Mr.?
Well, I believe it's already most of the points covered, but I also have one additional point. When it's always said, if you need to learn a new language, you need to think
Absolutely.
to use
Yes.
this language,
Yes.
so you will master it. And we're at the time of transformation and digitalization, and there is a lot of new technologies, a new tool. It's said to be helping the business.
Right.
But also security is part of that business. So I encourage the CISOs as well to look into those new norms like automation and artificial intelligence and the new tools, business tools that use now a lot to help their business achieving their goals. Actually, it can be used efficiently in the security as well. So,
Absolutely.
like when you talk about automation, we are talking now into new norm of intelligent automation.
Right.
And the transformation should be using that tool to really adopt the security strategy within any organization. Using those new tools, it really adds the real value and can be the future of the security.
Yes, absolutely. We've not even touched the tip of the iceberg, and I wish we could go on and on. But, the one thing that's clear from this discussion is that we're actually at the crossroads, and security is front and center. And, the discussion was insightful. I wish we could go on and on, but time is, running out, and evening is waiting for us. So, is there anything you would like to add in addition to what we've actually, spoken or discussed that you think is relevant?
One word maybe.
Just
One
remember that cybersecurity is a very binary game.
Absolutely.
The attacker only needs to be successful once.
Yes.
And that's also the reason why the offensive and the defensive side are so different.
Right.
Because the offensive side doesn't need to be successful every time.
Absolutely.
But the defensive side needs to.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was one word, right?
That was one word.
I can make it two words. So it's,
Yeah.
it's like Nicolai also said, it has to be by design.
Right.
The bolt-on doesn't work in security. It can
Right.
work other places, but in security, it's only by design.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
And that's only one advice, to be engaged more in the business, understand the business needs and the business objective, and transformation is very important, even in the security. How we deal with the threats and how we protect the organization should be also in very, very up-to-date technologies and tools.
Right.
Correct. So my advice to CISOs and security leaders is, instead of focusing on applying security controls as islands or working in isolation mode, I would advise them to build a complete holistic program that can protect the enterprise. This program should include the people, the technology, the assets, the future plans, the business objectives. Everything should be part from that program.
Right. So that was a very insightful discussion. I know we haven't touched anything, but it could go on and on. But thank you very much, panelists, audience. I hope you had a lovely time listening to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.